All right. Hello. Hi, Melissa.
Hello. Good to
So,
be
guys,
here. How are you?
I'm great. And we are here today. And I apologize if I read this. So, I know Melissa really well, but she has a lot of credentials behind herself. So, I have to read her little introduction. So, um, this is Melissa Dukquits. And I think I said that correctly for
You
the first
did.
time ever. Yay. She used to have a much easier last name, but then she got married. Um, She's a registered and licensed dietitian. So I am super, super excited. Y'all, this is like the gold standard of people that are allowed to talk about nutrition, right? Um, she graduated from Texas A&M, just like me, whoop, big and Maggie's thing, with bachelor's and master's degrees in nutrition. And then afterwards, she completed is that right, 1,200-hour dietetic internship?
It sure is unpaid.
Unpaid. That needs to, yeah, that should have been right there. Unpaid internship to earn the registered dietitian credentials. So when you see people with an RD after their name, that's basically what it says, right? Is they
Yes.
1,200-hour. Oh my gosh, that's insane. Other background, she's a fitness instructor and personal trainer, and that's how we met actually.
Yes.
And now she focuses on nutrition full time. She's worked in settings that include education, private online meal planning, which is exciting for me and probably everyone else listening to this, because that means we actually can have access to you on our own, which is
Yes.
super cool, and counseling there as well. Uh, Most recently, she was a clinical dietitian at the hospital, but she's about to have a baby in a few weeks.
Yes.
That's
3 or 4 weeks.
far along again? 36?
36, almost and a half. So
So yeah, awesome. So I'm excited to have you here today. And most of the questions that I have for you are coming from a group of women that I'm working with right now who are all kind of on their individual pathways toward wellness. But a big part of that is nutrition. So the very first thing that they wanted to know, and I want to know, is you hear about people say now, eat real food. I'm like,
hmm
well, I mean, anything I put in my mouth is real, right? But I want to hear your opinion on that. It's a really trendy concept, but what is real food, and is it really that important?
Good question. And that's something that I find myself saying a lot and then realizing that I probably need to explain it further. So basically, eat real food means just don't make it complicated. Just eat foods that come from the earth, like fruits and vegetables, meats, dairy, as long as you can tolerate it, nuts, and things like that. So that's what it means. And it is really trendy right now. You see a lot of articles about it. And the one thing that I try to emphasize is not to become too legalistic about it. A lot of people become very strict and almost like I don't know what you want to call it, like prideful about how they're eating real food, and someone next to them's eating a bagel, and so
Right. Yes.
it's very important not to become too caught up, because I'm not going to lie, I had a bagel today for breakfast and I'm still going to be all right. So, but the reason it's important is because the foods that are on the earth, it's like God knew what he was doing or something. And they're all just really packed with vitamins and minerals that go perfectly together and digest perfectly in our bodies. Whereas if you had like some cereal that's got added vitamins and minerals, it might be in kind of odd proportions to where your body won't absorb them as well.
Oh, wow. Very cool.
Yeah.
I guess
So
you
if you
always think, oh, I have added vitamins, so that's a good thing, but that's not necessarily always a good thing.
Right. And it might be some type of synthetic vitamin that doesn't act in your body the same way a vitamin from a piece of fruit would, if that makes sense.
It does actually, yeah. Wow. Never even
So
thought about that. That's so cool.
yeah, it's I've found a lot of success with my clients in just teaching them how to choose those foods over processed foods. Their bodies just function better, they feel better, they have less micronutrient deficiency symptoms and things like that. So
And we actually just talked about micro versus macronutrients. So
ooh,
if you weren't in our group, but micronutrients then would be like vitamins and minerals.
yes. Yes.
Very
And
cool.
that's my favorite thing to talk about. So we'll try not to open too many cans of worms, but
Well, if I get confused, which happens really easily, I'll just kind of say, hey, what do you mean by that?
Mhm.
So very, very cool. And I like what you said, like things are put on this earth, God put stuff on this earth perfectly designed. And so, the closer we stick to that, really, it's easy to think about it when you think about it that way.
Mhm.
Um, so I guess we kind of talked a little bit about this second question. Someone brought up the idea of soil depletion and if that's
Yeah.
affecting our intake of vitamins and minerals naturally, like you're saying, that are in an apple. So is that a real thing, first of all? Is soil depletion really happening? And then because of that, do we need to take some kind of supplement?
Excellent question. This is something that I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on by any means, but I have learned a little bit about it. And it is true. Soil depletion is a real thing, especially with the way that farming works now, where they just really exhaust a piece of land with, centralized farming practices and then ship it out across the country. So the way you can kind of avoid that is by shopping locally if you can. And that's not something I've had the pleasure of being able to do lately. I just have to, get my Walmart fruit and vegetables, and that's okay. But if you buy locally, it's less likely to be depleted in that way, or if you have your own garden out back. So those are a couple of ways. And then to answer your question about the supplements, this is something that not all dietitians might have the same answer on. A lot of dietitians come from the standpoint of, oh, well, if you eat a perfectly balanced diet, you don't need supplements. But in my opinion, that's hard to do, and it's hard to do every day. So I usually do recommend taking a multivitamin. With that said, not all multivitamins are created equally. Some of them, you'll hear people say that they actually see it come out the other end in the toilet without being digested.
When you've had too much vitamin B, for example, right?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah, because your pee is bright yellow when you do that. So, and you might find some multivitamins when you glance on the back. It says 8,000% of your daily B vitamins, and it's like, whoa, cool. But you're just going to pee it out,
It's a lot of money for bright yellow pee.
Exactly. So I can definitely send a link out for a couple of brands that I like.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I'll put that in the description. So if you're looking for that, I can put in the description of this chat.
Yes. And then a couple other things that I always recommend to my clients is vitamin D. You can get this from the sun, which is really cool. It's the only vitamin you can get from the sun. So in the summertime, we're probably going to be fine if we go outside a little bit every day. In the wintertime, it's not a bad idea to take a supplement.
That's cool. I think it's funny. You're pregnant now and you're about to have a little baby. And that one of the things when you're pregnant, the whole idea is like optimum nutrition and the healthiest we can be. And you have to take a supplement. Like, yes, pregnant women have to take a supplement. And then little babies, you have to give them vitamin D. At least in this country, that's how we do it. I know, I follow some people on Instagram who do not live in this country, and they say, oh, just take them out in the sun for a little bit, which of course that would terrify me with a brand new baby. But it's interesting to hear you say this. You're like, oh, so yeah, this is a real thing.
It is. And my other favorite recommendation is to take an Epsom salt bath to get your magnesium.
I've heard about that recently. Plus, you get an excuse to take a really awesome bath.
Yes, and you can say that the dietitian told you need to do it.
Awesome. So is Epsom salt then mainly magnesium? It's not really a salt necessarily, like we think of a table salt?
Right. So table salt is sodium chloride, and then most Epsom salts are magnesium sulfate. So it's just a different type of salt.
Cool.
And they usually add like essential oils or something to it. So
yeah, you can probably find, I know they have like Epsom salt. There's that Dr. whoever that has the lavender. Smells really nice.
Dr. Teal's.
That's
I
what
have
it
that in my
is.
bathroom. Yep.
Dr. Teal's. Maybe someone will hear that and like sponsor this with Dr. Teal's Epsom.
There you go.
Okay, so awesome. Oh my gosh, already I'm like, we have so much information. We've been talking for like 5 minutes. This is great. So this is a great one, and I love this question. If someone in my group hadn't asked this, I would have definitely put this on my list. Basically, so what is a healthy diet? Because they said, and I agree, we feel like a ping pong sometimes between this is a popular diet, and I see this person over there that lost weight doing this, so I'm going to try that. But then my other friend did the complete opposite, and I'm going to try that. We hear keto, Mediterranean, paleo, low fat, high protein, and we could go on and on and on. But for you as a registered dietitian, someone who we should be looking up to for nutrition, what is a healthy diet?
That's a great question.
And is it the same for everyone, I guess, too, would be?
Exactly. That's probably my favorite phrase is that it depends. It depends on the individual, which is why it's great to ask a registered dietitian, because they can weigh in all of the different factors that you have. They can weigh in what you're already doing. If you have any medical history of certain diseases or diabetes, renal failure, that kind of stuff. And they can weigh in what you've tried in the past and what's worked and what hasn't. So I never prescribe like a keto diet for somebody or, a specific diet. I usually just kind of work with them on eating real food, learning to recognize what works well with their bodies, what doesn't, and just kind of going from there week to week and seeing how things are going. But for people who don't have a personal registered dietitian nutrition coach, I say that the couple of things I recommend across the board is just trying your best to eat more real food, eliminating processed food as much as you can. Don't stress out about trying to follow a specific protocol because you're not going to be able to do that for the rest of your life. And that's a good thing to think about is when you start something, are you going to want to do this forever?
Oh, I love that.
If you're not, then it's not going to help you forever.
Is there ever a time when you do something like temporary, or is it you typically try to get people on a path where they're going to follow that, or they can follow it and for the rest of their life?
Most people, what they like to do is jump in the deep end of the pool and then try to like swim their way out of the shallow end. And I try to take people the other way where they make small changes at a time, get used to it, make another small change, get used to it. And it's not as dramatic, it's not as exciting, but it will last forever if we do it that way. Because if you plunge in the deep end with the keto diet and decide that you don't want to do it 3 weeks later, you're going to lose a lot of water weight, you're going to feel really sick and decide you can't do it anymore, and then bail out and gain your weight back. So
well, I've seen people too try things, and when it didn't work out, they go completely 180 the other direction, and you see that kind of I think they call it creeping obesity, is at least what what I learned. And so maybe they're like, I gained all my weight back but 1 or 2 pounds. Well, then they try the next diet and then 1 or 2 pounds, so next thing you know, they're like 10 pounds overweight. Or they're already overweight, and just from trying. So I really love that idea of those baby steps, and I firmly believe in that as well. Like, you have to prepare, then you have to have the action, then you have to have the maintenance, and jumping in the deep end it maybe works for like 1% of the population, and they have a willpower that 99% of the population, including myself, does not have.
Yeah. And I will expand a little on the keto diet because that's probably the most talked about one right now. I will say that I have a couple of friends who do it really well and have had a lot of success on it. But those people are very knowledgeable and they know how to eat in a way where they won't come up with nutrition deficiencies. So if you were to ask your friend at work who's doing it, oh, how do you eat keto? They'll say, oh, just stay under, 20 grams of carbs a day or something like that.
Yeah, it's very, very low. I know that.
Yeah, and they tell you to do that, and you're like, okay. So if I eat bacon for breakfast, pulled pork for lunch, and hamburger patty for dinner, I'll be following the rules. But you won't get any fiber, vitamins, minerals, nutrients from all of the foods you're cutting out of your life. And you're not going to eat that way forever. So you're just, I would say if you want to try something drastic like that, definitely hook up with someone who understands how to guide you through it.
So kind of a little funny story. I have a family member who has been on a very long weight loss journey and has kind of like, she's has a coach and someone who's helping her with it. And she's, like you said, progressed from the shallow into the deep end. And so she's kind of phased stuff. And right now she's in a very low carb, almost keto-like. I don't know her exact macronutrient profile, but I was trying to be helpful, and I made a recipe and actually put it on my Instagram TV about how to get, like, not just like you're saying, like all the different things. She wanted something with some greens in it. And I'm like, well, I have a big bag of kale, so I'll show you what I do. Well, you can definitely get enough fiber and still keto diet, because we definitely had kale for dinner, and that stuff cooks down, and our food had a lot of fiber. But I can see too how people would, take that and make it. And you hear, like, when the Atkins diet was popular, people, oh, that's my excuse to have like basically a bacon cheeseburger every day with no bun and just eat.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it can make a difference when you get a little bit of fiber in your life.
Absolutely. And I did work with one client who, she was having some trouble with fertility, and she was eating keto because she wanted to improve her health. And when I did a diet recall with her and asked, okay, tell me how you're eating day to day, it was like, she cooked bacon in the morning and then didn't eat again until 5 o'clock because she didn't know what to eat, and just had some tuna because she didn't know what to eat. And she was basically starving her body. She was losing weight, but she wasn't going to be maximizing her health at all. So it's important to be careful when you try these things.
Well, and I think at any point, if you basically don't eat enough calories, you're going to lose weight.
Exactly. Even if it's not
the goal, even with people that, and I actually didn't put this on here, but I think fasting is an interesting thing that's kind of out there right now. But I know people that even do fasting for like spiritual reasons. They don't stay in that fasting state forever and ever and ever. They come out of it and they nourish their body. Otherwise it's basically an eating disorder.
Exactly. And I'll send a link out to this too. There's a podcast that I love called Team Nutrition Genius Radio. And it's 2 dietitians, and they have like 100 episodes and address every trendy diet, every question you can think of. There's a full hour podcast on it. So if there's anyone out there who's wants to learn more, that's a great resource.
Oh yeah, I'm excited about that one myself. I love podcasts. Okay, so we talk. Anything else you want to add about the healthy diet, or did we kind of cover a lot of that stuff?
One thing I will say, because I have people all the time at work and on the street, or not on the street, but when they hear I'm a dietitian, they'll say, oh, well, what should I eat? And that's my least favorite question, because that'd be like someone coming up to you and saying, what exercise should I do?
Oh, and it happens. What do I need to do to lose weight? I'm like, I don't know who you are. So I have no idea how to answer that question.
Exactly. But one thing that I say across the board is, if you want to make a healthy change, try eliminating all sugary drinks from your life, because that's not going to hurt you. Try drinking more water and eliminating soda. And I always joke that if I had a show, I'd be a vigilante dietitian, like running around slapping sodas out of people's hands.
I love it. That's actually, that's where we start in our like journey to wellness, is what the program is called right now. Mind into Motion. It'll be the same program, but that shallow to deep. And the first thing that I do, I'm like, go buy a water bottle that you like to drink out of, because that means you're going to start drinking water, and that's not going to hurt you. I mean, I had the conversation because on the rare occasion I've had maybe a person who's kind of taking it to extremes, which I think can happen with exercise and with diet, with just about anything. Maybe not meditation, but it can happen with about anything. But for the most part, drinking water is not going to hurt you, especially we're both in Texas right now and it's really hot outside. So, it's very hard to drink too much water.
Right. And I will say, just because I always have to give a disclaimer, if you have kidney failure or kidney disease, that's not true. Then it could hurt you.
No, good. I like those things because that is very true. And you know all about that. And that is you never want to throw something out there without like the little disclaimer to fall back on.
This is not meant to be substituted for medical advice. Yeah.
Exactly. For the most part, for most people. Okay, so I really liked this next question though, because I'm getting there. You'll be there soon. Once they start walking, I think as soon as they take their first steps, you're all of a sudden a busy mom. Not because your life gets overwhelmed, but because you're like running around after a kid. I know my husband stayed home. The first time he like really stayed home the full day, because I work a job where I can kind of be home a lot more. And he works full time. So the first time he had to be home like full day with Alice as a toddler and had on his little activity tracker, I came home and he's like, I got all my steps in and I didn't do anything. I'm like, yeah, you did a lot. You ran from room to room to room. So what are your tips for busy moms? Like,
that's so funny.
Grocery, budget, meal prep, just anything you can throw our way.
Yes. Well, I'm obviously not a busy mom yet, but I am a tired pregnant woman.
Same thing.
And it is hard, even if you're just feeding yourself or just feeding yourself and your husband. The thing that I feel like makes the biggest difference for almost everybody is planning and laying out your intentions for the week. And I'm sure you would agree with fitness or anything else health related.
Absolutely.
Just, and that can be as simple as sitting down, thinking about a couple of meals you want to make this week, what you want to have for breakfast and snacks ready to go. Jot it down on a list, or put it on your fridge and make a grocery list from that.
Very good. You'd be so proud. My fridge has my meals written on it right now.
That's awesome. Very cool. I do have a few tips that are more practical ways or things to do if you want to try this at your leisure. So the first one is I usually encourage my clients to decide on 3 main meals that they want to cook for the week. Don't try to cook 5 or 7 because you're probably going to buy a lot of food and not use it.
Yeah, and that's a lot of cooking when you really think about it, because there's typically at least one night a week where I'm just so running up to the minute. I don't want to get in the kitchen, and I like to cook. So
yeah, exactly. Now, for people like my mom, cooking is her way of taking a break from work during the day, and because she works at home, so she doesn't mind cooking every night. But most people I encourage to cook 3 meals a week, make very big portions, and tell your family they'll live if they eat leftovers for a night or 2.
I love leftovers. We even, you know what we do too, is even if we don't necessarily keep it like in the fridge for leftovers, if there's stuff left over, we almost always just make lunches, and we have a whole side of our like pull out freezer that's all lunch. Yeah, and they're just ready to go. And we maybe didn't write them down on a list, but you know, they're ready to go and we can pull them out. And especially my husband, because he takes lunch every day to work. So it's really nice for him.
Perfect. Yeah, that's great. And then having healthy snacks ready to eat, like fruits and vegetables washed and cut up. I'm sure you've probably found, as well as me, that if you buy fruit and don't have a plan for it, it'll go into your bottom drawer and go bad.
Yes, or we have a really thriving compost bin currently.
Yeah, exactly. And it's easy to let that happen. So I found that they go really quick, even just my husband and I, if we cut it up, put it in a bowl, and it's on the top shelf. And it's like, oh, great. You know,
that's such an easy tip, but something that we don't do. I'm looking right now. My kitchen's right there, and we've got just whole apples. And you're right. Like for some reason, I'm like, oh, I have to pick it up and wash it and bite it.
Yeah. And oranges are the worst. I'll pick a banana over an orange because it's so much easier.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, great questions.
Cool. So I think, so I think, are we on to one of my awesome questions for you about your favorite healthy meal?
Oh, yes,
Or
I
did
think
we get
so.
through all the tips? Do you have more tips? Did I miss it? I don't want to miss anything good.
Oh, let's see. Another tip I usually give, and I know it's hard with kids, but is just don't buy processed snacks or desserts that you know you will go to. And that will be a temptation because, I mean, right now I'm staying with my parents for a little while. They've got ice cream in the fridge. I've eaten it every night. And but I wouldn't do that normally.
You know what, though? I love to hear. I think it's so refreshing. And like, I know you and I know how you are, and you eat super healthy, but you're also not, like you're saying, so legalistic about it. Like, yeah, you'll see her eat ice cream, but does she eat that every single day? No, not at all.
Usually not.
Unless she's with parents. Right? So you have a few outs right now. But I think it's really nice to hear you being so real and not trying to be, because there are people out there who are, they feel like they have to be perfect all the time just because they have like RD behind their name. And that's not real life either.
Right. And a lot of clients I work with, they'll have the Cheetos in the pantry for their kid, and then go on a binge after their child goes to bed and feel very shameful about it. And it leads to a lot of negative emotions associated with food, which is not where we want to be going. So if you know that's going to create a negative cycle for you, just try not to buy it and put it in your house. That's one of my tips too.
Well, and I think as a parent, I mean, one of the hardest things for me not to buy, because I know Alice loves them, is goldfish. The little snacks, she loves them. There are some healthier, like organic options, but I also know that we don't have to buy it. She's gonna survive. She's gonna find things that she likes. And as a parent, if you start them on the junk stuff, yeah, they're gonna gravitate toward that. It's like it's engineered to taste good, typically adding sugar. But she likes the little clementines. So we have those in the house. And then as far as, could you do, like, this is the one thing as a mom that I was very like, oh no, when she's hungry, I'll make her a frittata. No, they go from like 0 to starving. And then they're like, mom, she doesn't even say that yet, but she's like, she knows the sign for more. And I think in her world, that just means food. So she goes, and it stops. So we do try to look for healthier snack alternatives, like the Lara bars, RX bars that are very low ingredients. And you can even make your own Lara bars, I guess. But I know there's a lot of parents that almost, and I don't know if I should go there, and I know my head does this, so I'm going to say it as me. Oh, that's easy. I'll buy it for the kids. Knowing full well that it's something I like. And if I do buy it for the kids, I'm going to end up eating it. And you're right. It goes into that shame spiral. And then I feel bad about myself. And then I've eaten her snack. And that's real bad. If I ate the last goldfish and then she gets hungry, then that mom guilt.
Yeah. Well, I already do that with my husband. I use him as my scapegoat. I'm like, oh, well, he really likes this type of ice cream. So I'm going to get it for him,
Oh, I hear you. Loud and clear.
So, yeah, great questions.
Cool. And then, so what is your favorite healthy meal? And maybe right now it's totally different, but if you have like an awesome healthy meal when you're pregnant, that's even cooler.
Yeah. I really love food. I love cooking. I love eating, everything about it. But my favorite meal of the day is definitely breakfast when I'm having a slow morning and I can cook. When I look at my plate, I'm such a nerd. I don't see like, bacon, eggs, vegetables. I'm like, ooh, I'm getting my folic acid for my baby's spinal cord and my protein for my muscles and my, vitamin A for my eyes. And so my favorite breakfast is just like eggs mixed up with scrambled with vegetables, maybe a nice piece of bacon on the side, which is okay to have sometimes. And a glass of milk, just something filling and hearty in the morning is my favorite.
Awesome. Yeah, I think maybe that's a comfort thing too. When I have time to actually cook breakfast, I love it. I think it's because so much of our life is spent rushing through breakfast, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's a good day if you have time to cook something like that.
Yes. Okay, so the last thing, and I really, I think this is more, I kind of added this question last minute for you that I just think is important for us to talk about. So first of all, and we'll talk at the very end of this, I'll let you give people your information because I know that you do personalized meal plans. And y'all heard her talk now, so you know where her mind is behind it, and you don't have to go reading all her credentials. You've like heard it from her mouth and you know what she's going to get. So if that's something that listening to this you're interested in, you're like, oh, I want to get her to look at my, at least, you know, look at my diet, maybe do some personalized meal plans or some consultation. But I want you to talk about why people should get meal plans only from an RD, or if there's another person out there who could do this, because I know like I am highly certified in exercise and kinesiology, and I'm a personal trainer, and we are trained to in some form of nutrition, but really the only thing that I can tell you is stuff that's been like, I can spout out research to you, I can tell you where the latest research is, and I can tell you FDA guidelines, but then after that, I'm not ever going to just say you should eat broccoli at 2 p.m. Like that's not, and that's, if I'm doing that, that's beyond what's called my scope of practice. So right. Tell people why it's so important that you're the one giving the meal plans and not just like their trainer at the gym or even someone as a nutritionist, or is that okay?
Great question. And this is something that, you know, opens a whole new can of worms for most dietitians, because we feel like our profession is watered down very much by other people who think they're experts in our field. And that's not to say that there aren't trainers out there or people like you who really know what they're talking about and can give very valuable help to people. But I think a red flag would be is if someone is very set on their method of eating and they don't have open eyes to you as an individual or different approaches. If you find a trainer you're working with who thinks, you know, keto is the way to lose weight and there's no other way, that's usually a red flag, because they're not going to be able to help you troubleshoot and help you consider your personal background and health needs. Dietitians are obviously the best people to work with because they can consider your medical history, and they can consider if you have a family history of diabetes, or if you have trouble with your kidneys or heart failure, if you've had trouble with eating disorders in the past, or bad relationships with food. They'll be able to really help you find your pattern of eating. But unfortunately, there aren't that many dietitians who do what I do available in the world yet. It's headed that way, but so yeah, if you can find a dietitian like me looking for some work at home, just gonna put that plug in there.
So by do what you do, you mean the online consultation?
Yeah, or make themselves available.
Gotcha.
To like, or in an outpatient setting, if you go to your doctor and they say, I want you to lose weight, it might be a great time to ask, oh, do you have a dietitian that you work with that I could be referred to? Because if he does or she does, you might be able to see that dietitian and have that service covered under your insurance.
Oh, very, very cool. And actually, you know what I've noticed now, and I don't know how true this is in the dietitian world, but some things and I'm only familiar with it from like a skincare standpoint, is that insurance is now, because it's becoming more of a privatized industry, is they're sometimes covering more and more that you go out and find yourself and then apply to get reimbursed. So that's not to say maybe your insurance would cover this as long as your doctor is okay with that. I mean, I don't know how that's working in the dietitian world these days.
Yeah, it's a little tricky. If you see a dietitian who is employed by a practice, then they can bill insurance easily. If you see a dietitian like myself who works independently, they would need to be an insurance provider for that insurance company.
Okay, gotcha.
You have to have like a provider number, and I'm working towards that, but it might take a while. It's very tedious. So yeah, to answer your question, if you go through a doctor, you're more likely to get benefits that way. So
Cool.
yeah.
Well, cool. But I know too, sometimes the cost is kept down if you're just going independently.
Yes, definitely. And I will let you know kind of what services I'm offering right now. I do the full-on nutrition coaching where I work very closely with my clients, check on them once or twice a week, give them personalized calendars, meal plans, grocery lists, the works. I'm also going to be coming out with more of like a pre-made meal plan that's a lot less expensive, where I can just kind of email and done type of thing. And I also offer just one-time consultations if someone wanted to sit on a video chat with me and just have a conversation. So that's what I offer. And I also know several other dietitians who do the same type of thing that I could send you to if I'm not able to help. So
very, very cool. Well, Melissa, this has been really awesome. And I've learned some things. I'm sure other people have learned some things too. But I want to thank you so much for taking time to be with us and talk to us about some things that we probably haven't ever heard of before. It's kind of nice to have a little one-on-one chat with a dietitian. I don't think it happens very often. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Sorry if I rambled. I get kind of excited about my topics.
Sometimes rambling equals passion. So I think it's totally okay.
I'm like out of breath over here. All right. Well, thank you for your time.
All right. Well, that was just really wonderful. I love when we get to bring in that like super educated professional aspect to something that, you know, sometimes we think we know a lot about. She had some really great advice and also some interesting subjects. I don't know about you, but I had never learned much about the synthetic vitamins. So that was super cool. If you want to connect with her on social media, her handle on Instagram, so her name is Melissa Dukquits, Dukquits, and her Instagram handle is Dukquits, so DMDUKQUITS 90. And you can find her there. You can also find me at Gretchen Gegg all over, or at Gretchen Gegg Wellness if you're looking on Facebook. You know, sometimes people take your name. But the best way, if you just want kind of a one-stop shop for getting a hold of me, go to GretchenGegg.com. And I will have tons of information there for you. And you can also connect and maybe become a part of our next wellness group, our next Mind into Motion group. We'd love to have you. Have a wonderful day, and you guys keep facing forward.